I'm Scott Hoagland. This is Planet Hemp.
I was sitting in a Motel 6 and the Bible was there on the shelf, so I decided to pick it up and read a verse. Well, according to Genesis chapter 1, verse 29, God gave every man every herb bearing its seed which is on the earth. Well, this plant I have which bears its seed ended me up in a jail, and they took my herb away and threw me in a cage. Well, that makes me ask the question, who are the...
Throughout this program, you will learn how one of the world's oldest cultivated crops can play a major role in dealing with some of today's environmental struggles, as well as increasing the wealth, economy, and well-being of its population.
Gotta stick together and tell them this shit ain't right. Learn first and then decide.
Allow me to introduce Dr. Tom Maloney.
Research, hemp goes back a long ways for being used by man.
Dr. Maloney is the head of the Wood Materials and Engineering Department at the Washington State University. It is in his laboratories that he and his associates test building products manufactured from hemp. Next, I'd like you to meet Ken Friedman, president of American Hemp Mercantile in Seattle, Washington. Ken imports and sells goods made from hemp, including paper, fabric, food, even furniture. And this is Paul Stanford, president of Tree Free Eco Paper in Portland, Oregon. Paul sells the many paper products that can be made from hemp, from envelopes to letterhead to corrugated boxes to computer paper.
Well, our paper is made from non-wood fiber, primarily hemp.
But first, let's clear the air of a few misconceptions. Hemp and marijuana are often referred to as the same substance, but this is untrue.
Hemp is a plant that grows over most of the world. Its Latin name is Cannabis sativa. It is the same plant that marijuana comes from, but it's grown differently, and they hybrid it so it's very low in THC.
If you were to think of an apple tree, hemp would be the tree itself, the bark, the roots, the stems, the leaves, the whole tree. Marijuana would then be the fruit of the tree, or the apples.
Hemp is a crop that grows annually. It grows relatively rapidly, depending on location. And Pacific Northwest, from what I understand, is a good location for growing the hemp plant. You can get a lot of material grown annually. You can grow it on land that might not be good for forest.
Perhaps the biggest hurdle tripping the hemp industry is the mistaken idea that when hemp is grown, marijuana is always produced.
What a lot of people get confused about, what is hemp and what's marijuana, and I think in other parts of your program you're discussing that, but they're quite different. I always tell people, I say, well, what is hemp? I say, well, just think about hemp rope. That's the hemp that you're really familiar with.
Marijuana is only grown on female plants. If male plants are grown, only industry-usable material is produced. Besides growing only male plants, science has created a genetic hybrid that produces no marijuana whatsoever.
Or non-industrial hemp would be illegal marijuana, the things that's being grown in people's basements or imported from Thailand. Industrial hemp is a different hybrid. It's grown differently. It's grown for the stalk. All the fibers come from the stalk, so they grow it close together. They don't grow it for the leaves or the buds.
It's the same plant, but the plant that produces the best and most fiber doesn't produce the psychoactive substance in any quantities that are useful for drug production.
They've been doing it for generations in Western Europe and for centuries in Eastern Europe. In fact, in the United States, we had industrial hemp until 1937.
Scientists have dated hemp use back 12,000 years. It is known to be one of the first 4 cultivated crops.
12,000 years ago, hemp was one of the first crops that was purposely cultivated by human beings in the first agricultural settlements that sprung up in the Tigris-Euphrates valleys and in the Yellow River Valley.
Sailing ships used hemp to make the sailcloth, and hemp's been used in making paper for centuries and centuries.
This one plant was used to make the paper that Bibles and even the Declaration of Independence were printed on. Hemp has been woven into garments throughout history and across the world. Not only was the very first American flag sewn by Betsy Ross made from hemp, but so were the clothes and supplies of the many soldiers that fought to keep her waving.
It was illegal not to grow hemp in some of the British colonies because they needed it for their sails and their ropes, and they needed enough of a production to satisfy the Navy.
But more recently, in the 1940s, when the United States was at war in the Pacific and many of our supplies were cut off, the United States government produced a video called Hemp for Victory. This video was to encourage farmers to grow hemp for the war effort.
American hemp must meet the needs of our Army and Navy as well as of our industries. In 1942, patriotic farmers at the government's request planted 36,000 acres of seed hemp, an increase of several thousand %. The goal for 1943 is 50,000 acres of seed hemp.
Today, when grown for paper production, it would take 4 acres of trees to make the same amount of usable pulp material as 1 acre of hemp.
Well, hemp is the longest and strongest plant fiber, so it can make a stronger paper than wood fiber. Wood fiber's maximum length is about 7 to 8 millimeters, where hemp fiber can be up to 3 meters long, or hundreds of times longer.
That same 1 acre of hemp can be harvested 3 times a year, for hemp only has a 120-day growing season.
Tree-free paper can be made with any combination of hemp pulp from 10% to 90% to 100%. The paper we're currently producing is 90% hemp, 10% cotton. And it's got the obvious advantages over wood pulp because you don't need to cut trees to make nice paper. It's also stronger than wood pulp. It can be recycled more times.
According to USDA Bulletin 404, a waste product from making canvas, rope, lace, and linen, that waste product makes more than 4 times more paper than trees. According to a Dutch study that was published in last July of '93's Pulp and Paper magazine, the total production from hemp, both the bast fiber, which can be made into both paper and textiles, plus the hurd fiber, those fibers together produce more than 8 times more paper than the most productive tree species.
Another advantage to hemp paper over tree paper is that no harmful acids are used in the bleaching process.
It can be bleached with hydrogen peroxide to avoid the chlorine problems from paper industry. So it is an ideal product for paper. It's an annual plant. It yields a lot of pulp, and you can make paper with the byproducts of the textile industry. So you can use all of the plant and make each of them cheaper. All of the plant. Yeah.
Hemp is composed of very long fibers, up to 15 feet in length. And depending on how the hemp is grown, these fibers can be woven into fabric. Fabric as soft as women's lingerie or as rough as burlap.
Again, as you know, hemp fiber can be used in the United States and is being used in cloth products.
The Chinese are doing a better job right now on the lighter weight fabrics. They are spinning finer threads that the Hungarians are able to do and will start doing in bigger quantities immediately. There are probably hundreds of products you could do from hemp. The ones we're currently doing are fabrics in almost everything you make from fabric. Clothing, bags, wallets, hats, things like that are all being made currently. Futons, it's a good upholstery fabric.
Fabric made from hemp is 3 times stronger than cotton, is more water absorbent than cotton, and is warmer than cotton.
It's a good alternative to cotton because it's grown without pesticides. It stops soil erosion. It's pest resistant. It's drought resistant. Cotton's a very Cotton has a lot of impact on the environment. It's grown with a lot of pesticides. There's some soil degradation problems. There's erosion problems. There's the problems of harvesting it and things like that. Hemp is very easy to grow. It's naturally resistant to pests, and it's naturally resistant to droughts, and so you can grow it without putting new chemicals into the environment.
Visualize, if you can, a house made entirely of hemp. Start with the foundation, the concrete. In France, they have perfected a technique where you mix hemp hurd with lime. That substance then mineralizes into a material that is stronger, lighter, and more durable than concrete.
As one of the numerous products where the hemp material could go would be into this product line, either as...
On top of our foundation lie the building materials made from trees. Hemp has the potential to replace these products.
Long fiber is very intriguing to many people because you can take that and make into long structural pieces using that fiber, because you got the fiber length and the hemp fiber is very strong.
Well, right now the demand exceeds the supply, and because of that, that's driven the price up. In the long term, though, when there aren't the artificial barriers to the market that exist today, hemp fiber will be less expensive.
Within the walls of our house, we need plumbing. Hemp can be made into a biodegradable substitute for plastic plumbing pipes.
And here's a sample of a hemp board. There's some others here too. I'm holding up one. It looks something like what I just showed. Not quite the same, because some of this has to be worked out yet, exactly how to work with these materials. Some of the machinery isn't quite right, but that's because we've been using wood machinery and not hemp machinery. Now, this board is not as good as this one over here. This is, again, you probably can't see it on the camera, but it has a nicer surface. It looks better, and I know, because the numbers aren't on the back here, but I do know it's much stronger in this. In fact, it's much stronger than the traditional MDF or medium density fiberboard I just showed you.
In a house fire, people are often killed by the gases from their carpet as it burns. Hemp carpet releases no poisonous fumes.
This could be around doors, windows, what have you, where we use high-quality lumber in the past, which we really don't have much of anymore, no matter what anybody says. As long as this is painted, you would never know the difference between this being a nice mill piece of Douglas fir, oak, what have you. If you want to have a wood grain, you can print it on, overlay it, and what have you. A lot of this is done already. So it's moving into a lot of the traditional uses where we used to have lumber.
Oil from the hemp seed can even be used to make paints and varnishes.
It works in there. It has worked elsewhere. It's been used some in this country in the past, but there is the possibility of making this kind of product with the fiber as well. There's all kinds of mixtures too. You could use a good long hemp fiber on the surfaces and some poor fiber or particle in the middle, because it's for bending purposes, and the fiber gives you the bending property. So there's all kinds of opportunities. It's going to boil down to economics, like all of these things. How much does it cost to do it? How much does it cost to grow the material, harvest it, process it? And supply and demand's in there too. If you don't have the wood material, if you want to keep making these kind of products, you use something else.
All of us want it to happen as soon as possible. It'd be good for the American farmers. It'd be good for the environment. It'd be good for the consumer. We'd get cheaper hemp products here very quickly.
The same process by which we make ethanol fuel from corn can be used to convert hemp into a usable gas for our cars and to heat our houses.
There's a process which you can make the same way you make ethanol from corn. You can make it out of hemp very economically, I think. You can also make hemp seed oil. It can be used as a fuel.
This would mean less dependency on any foreign oils and would reduce the price of gasoline in this country. But what about food? Hemp seeds contain all of the necessary and essential fatty acids, amino acids, and protein necessary for human life.
You can use it as a cooking additive. You can use the hemp seeds themselves in cooking. You can cook in the oil. It's very...
And such a variety of foods can be made with the hemp seed. Anything from hemp ice cream to hemp peanut butter, all of which aid in increasing the body's immune system and actually remove life-threatening plaque from our arteries.
It's very high in the essential fatty acids, high in protein, low in the bad kind of cholesterol, high in the good kind of cholesterol. It's like flaxseed oil as far as all the health benefits.
Just as it has done in the past, the potential is there for hemp food to play a key role in ending our world's hunger problem.
Probably everything can cure world hunger if you do it right. It could be part of the solution, certainly. And it's a plant that you can grow and be good for the environment, at the same time feed people. It's high in protein. It would contribute to the solution.
So what climate conditions are good for growing hemp?
Well, hemp is indigenous to Central Asian region, area Kazakhstan, Pakistan, the Tibetan region of China, and Kashmir region of India.
Hemp is like a weed. It can grow virtually anywhere, in virtually any soil.
Well, there are two main sources of hemp in the U.S. market right now, Hungarian hemp and Chinese hemp.
Well, it's grown in Holland. It was made legal to grow in England, I believe, in June of this year. And there's some hemp farms in Canada at the present time.
Hemp can be planted in areas that have been deforested or fallen victim to a fire.
You can grow it on land that might not be good for forest. I understand some parts here in eastern Washington where it's not particularly great for growing anything. Hemp crop would grow well.
Its long roots anchor the soil in place to prevent erosion, and its nutrient-rich foliage mixes with the soil to actually increase the fertility for the coming years. This is why hemp is also a good rotation crop for farmers.
Judging from the acceptance our products have gotten, I'm pretty sure the general public would not have any objection, or very little objection, to industrial hemp being grown here. The politicians don't realize that. Nobody even wants to talk about it yet. But with the environmental issues becoming more crucial, with the American farmers needing new crops, with the paper industry needing new pulp, it should happen very quickly.
The idea behind the hemp movement is not to eliminate jobs or eliminate industries. It is to create more jobs and new industries to integrate hemp knowledge and hemp products into today's society.
The logical way to use this to start with is as a supplement to present wood material in an operating medium density fiberboard plant like I showed here, or particle board, which is a little coarser particle, as a supplement to that raw material. And so people become familiar with the processing of the material, and it gets used properly in the board, and then eventually, with success, you could move on to a manufacturing plant that would use the hemp material exclusively.
I'm not optimistic. It might be 5 or 10 years before they allow it. And what we're trying to do is put the hemp products under the nose of the American consumers so they can see it's a good product and not be afraid of it, and start accepting it and accepting the idea of growing it here.
Support your local hemp industry. Buy hemp products. See for yourself. Test them against products that you use now. Which do you like better? Then make a choice.
It would appear that it has lots of benefits and a lot of good things that you can do with it, and the secret is economics, like I said before, and developing a way to take it out of the political and emotional scene, so that there's not a concern that you're growing a drug material rather than a building material.
But it's just a question on how much political resistance there's going to be. It could happen within 1 year of the United States government allowing it. It might happen sooner under a permit plan.
And I think what's going to happen is that cannabis will be taxed and regulated, and that hemp fiber and seed will be grown without regulation, and within 10 years will become a major source of fiber for paper making.
I'm Scott Hoagland. This is Planet Hemp.
Think about it.